All right, welcome back, True Seeker. All right, welcome back. I believe we are live. Never know when you do these car streams. Sometimes the connectivity is suspect. I recently noticed there's a feature when you're a YouTube creator. You can see the most subscribed to channel on YouTube that your subscribers are subscribed to. And I just looked at this for the first time, and it said it was the channel Brush Junkie. And I thought, Brush Junkie? I don't think I'm familiar with that channel. So I decided to check it out, and I saw it was a woman who's originally from Hawaii. She looks like she very well might be Japanese American. And I saw that her channel began as a makeup channel, thus Brush Junkie, you know, the makeup brush. But ever since the Lahaina fires, her channel has been mostly dedicated to understanding what's going on with the bizarre fires that have been taking place in the world. And of course, it began before Lahaina, but that being near where she's from, it really got on her map. And it looks like her channel went from a makeup channel to more of a truth seeker channel and trying to understand what I would refer to as weather warfare. And again, I noticed her channel, you know, maybe not even quite a week ago, and I've probably watched at least 10 videos on her channel now, and she's definitely had some interesting guests on and some interesting conversations, including people I can't stand, like Derek Bros, who he might be well-intentioned, but he's also a useful idiot. Anyway, that's beside the point. Yeah, the one thing I noticed about none of her guests is, and if you're out there watching this, Brush Junkie, I don't mean to come across as arrogant, but again, you're listening to somebody who's written a book on this. It's almost a decade old now and been super shadow banned and had 20-some channels deleted. And the Derek Broses of the world, you know, they like to hang out with their group of half-truther cliques, and they all like to pretend like yours truly doesn't exist, when I should have a lot of people helping me out based on all that I've exposed. And the fact that, again, you know, I've been deleted a million times. You think people would be like, you know what, maybe we need to pay attention to what he's doing over there, since YouTube keeps deleting him, and now they've absolutely shadow banned the channel and destroyed it. But anyway, to get to the point about what people aren't talking about, the Jesuits. Again, the Jesuits are who gave us the language, the calendar. The founders of this country, the United States of America, warned that they could subvert the nation if they came out of suppression, which they were in at the time the nation was founded. Lincoln again blamed the Civil War on the Jesuits. The Jesuit founder Ignatius Loyola is known for the, quote, "go forth and set the world on fire." When Lahaina burned up, of course, Governor Green was out of town talking Green New Deal, and the acting governor was Jesuit educated, of course, just like so many of the leaders in top positions in this country are Jesuit educated, including the orange goon himself, Donald Trump. And again, a lot of people don't even know simple facts of history, such as the first act of weather warfare ever admitted to was on the Jesuit order's birthday, August 15th, 1952. And again, you start to look at all these little breadcrumbs, it starts to become obvious who's really behind these destructive acts. And keep in mind, the Jesuits, we recently just had the first Jesuit Pope. He was a great purveyor of the Green New Deal, you know, all the climate change ideas, and realize all these disastrous fires, they're ultimately blamed on climate change, which then backs the politicians like the Greens of the world, you know, the current Hawaiian governor, who want to push things like the Green New Deal and 15-minute cities and all this kind of stuff. Now, off the top of my head, I don't have all of my Lahaina research memorized, But just simple things to see through the mockery. They blame the fires on the winds of Hurricane Dora, and the fire happened at the time of the anniversary of the end of Dora the Explorer. When Dora the Explorer, the cartoon, ended, that's the anniversary date of that is when the fires happened in Lahaina. Kind of like Hurricane Milton just landed on the anniversary of the cartoon debuting Milton the Monster. These things aren't an accident. A major piece that we talked about with the Lahaina fires was The Rock. The Rock, earlier that year in 2023, had debuted the live action trailer for Moana, where he's the fire god Maui in it. And remember that cartoon is, it's interesting because all the tattoos on the character in the cartoon version are mirrored from The Rock's grandfather. They're actually The Rock's, or not his grandfather, but The Rock's father's tattoos are the tattoos that they put on that character that he's the voice actor for. And then again, now there's the live action film. But that trailer for the live action Moana begins with an island bursting into flame. And that trailer came out 127 days before the fire began. 127 days, not an arbitrary number is 127. Again, it has a long history. But when you think of 127 with regards to Hawaii, you should naturally think of December 7th, as we write it in the U.S., 12/7, Pearl Harbor Day, major military event in Hawaii. And, of course, 9/11, it was buildings 1, 2, and 7, and they called it the new Pearl Harbor. You had the kamikaze pilots, not to mention the World Trade Centers were designed by a Japanese-American. And, again, with regards to the 127, remember the story of the autistic woman, Dora Milliken, who painted power line pictures. She had the red steel roof on her house, and it showed how her whole neighborhood was burned down, but she was the only surviving house, and the media treated it like it was a great irony that she was known for painting, again, landscapes of power lines, which is just like a really weird thing, right? It's like, who in the world paints power lines? So all she paints is landscapes of power lines? Dora Milliken. And, again, the thing that we teach about that almost no one will talk about is the Kabbalistic practice of coding numbers into words. Of course, Dora Milliken equals 127. And if you're new here, if you're new here, Brush Junkie, again, I have books on this topic. I learned about this practice of coding numbers into words from the 1926 book, The Secret Teachings of All Ages by Manly P. Hall, very much about the occult. He shows there's 4 ways to decipher the English language: the alphabetic order, the reverse alphabetic order, and both orders with numerology applied. I can't remember what her middle name is. It might be Louise, something like that. Dora Louise Milliken. Like her full name with numerology is 127. Dora Milliken with just the alphabetic order is 127. The last name alone, Milliken, with the reverse alphabetic order is 127. Her name has a triple connection to 127. And then they give you this story in the mainstream about how the lady who painted the power lines, ironically, has the only surviving house when they blame the disaster on, again, down power lines from the winds of Dora. And I'm trying to remember what it was about some Taco Bell advertisement and the Taco Bell that burned down being at the address 127. And I can't remember the name of the street, but the name of the street was Polynesian Wood. And of course, Maui's a Polynesian fire god. Polynesia also equals 127. But yeah, they coded all this 127 and synced it up with The Rock. And when that happened, I said, just wait until next year, which was 2024 at the time. I said, The Rock's going to turn 52 on 5-2 when Hurricane equals 52. He was a Miami Hurricane. He played for the football team. I said, watch, it's going to be a really nasty hurricane season. Of course, you had Helene and Milton do all that destruction. Hurricane Helene formed exactly 161 days after The Rock's birthday. Hurricane Helene is 161. Look into The Rock, who was inspired by a kid with Down syndrome named Milton. Again, as crazy as it all sounds, this is how the Cabal operates. Major rituals synced up with major celebrities on the world stage. This stuff's been going on for a long time. And again, I've written books about this. I've been talking about this stuff for a decade. For the record, the rock turning 52, the reason that mattered is because the word hurricane equals 52, as does earth, as does flood, as does Enlil, and Enlil's the Babylonian god of floods. The 52 number is huge with weather warfare. That's why the first act of weather warfare was admitted to in 1952, again on August 15th, the Jesuit order's birthday. The other thing about the Maui fires that went with culture was Maui burned up with the fires beginning on 8/8, which was the anniversary of Hawaii getting the 808 area code. And it burned up the week of hip-hop's 50th birthday. Hip-hop, of course, was born on the 808 drum machine, which was created in Japan, not too far from Hawaii. Again, back when Teddy Roosevelt was explaining why the U.S. had to take Hawaii, he was saying it had to be taken to preserve the white race as a military purpose to defend the white race from Asians. Again, you can look into what Teddy Roosevelt said, way back in the 1800s. These forgotten things that they don't teach us about in our 13 years of slave school, pledging to 13 stripes. And don't forget also how, how did they do it again? Joe Biden, if I remember right, Joe Biden showed up in Hawaii 13 days after the fire, just like how in history the Committee of 13 is what overthrew Hawaii. I have to go back and check. There were a lot of pieces. I forget all the little things that Governor Green did and all his little rituals. There was a whole lot more to the Lahaina ritual. But yeah, the hip-hop thing wasn't an accident. Again, hip-hop's 50th birthday. Hawaii's the 50th state. Kanye West, who's this big controversial figure in hip-hop in the 21st century, of course, has the album recorded in Hawaii. What's it called? 808 and Heartbreak or something like that. He's got the Chicago connection, like Obama, who also has the Hawaii connection. Oh, and that's right. The Lahaina fire, God, I had to go back and check my notes. I know they synced up the Lahaina fire with the anniversary of the Chicago fire, too. But yeah, again, this is the kind of ritualism they do year after year as they set fires. Like, for example, when Paradise and LA burned up on the same day, November 8th, Paradise, California, and Los Angeles, California both equal 118, which in this code of letters and numbers, 118 is a number connected to death and homicide. And not to mention LA's birthday is September 4th, the day leaving 118 days left in the year. And it's on the 118th Meridian West. When Trump just deployed the National Guard to LA and got in the beef with Karen Bass, that was 118 days from her birthday. Again, these numbers, they get used over and over ritualistically. You follow sports, you see the 118 rituals they do left and right with these rigged sports leagues, from the NBA to the MLB to the NHL. When we're talking about LA, for example, just a lot of 118 stuff. It's a whole nother subject. But yeah, again, if you really want to understand who is behind this and the purpose, you literally have to learn this Kabbalistic code of letters and numbers. And so many people don't want to do it. And I think it's because of all the indoctrination and programming. People think the occult is stupid, numerology is stupid, astrology is stupid, but these people use it day in and day out. And I think that's why everyone's been indoctrinated to dismiss it almost on the surface. Again, you just learn it, you see it all the time. Like right now, the breaking news is a curfew in LA from 8 p.m. to 6 a.m. for the days ahead. What's curfew equal in Gematria? It equals 86. That's why they're doing it from 8 p.m. to 6 a.m. And it's all synced with the Jesuit Superior Journal, not to mention Jesuits equals 86, and their big day is June 13th, which this year will be 213 days after the Black Pope's age, Arturo Sosa, and when LA's the 213 area code, Friday the 13th, the way it's going to fall this year. And my guess is that by Friday, they'll be spreading their purposeful, chaotic protests across the nation, just like the summer 5 years ago. Again, June 13th leaves 201 days left in the year. Don't forget, George Floyd. George Perry Floyd equals 201. His death was compared to Edema Traore's, which was exactly 201 weeks earlier on the 201st day of the year, and 1,201,201s with that, including the only Confederate statue in D.C. coming down, that at Albert Pike, and then 201 days later, January 6th, where the two events were compared, and now they're being brought up again as this L.A. thing's unfolding. You learn these certain numbers like 201, which represents the Jesuit order, who have a long history of 201. Again, you see who is pulling the strings on all of this crap, who's actually putting the bricks out in the city and paying for the protesters. It's not George Soros, like every half-truther thinks. George Soros is another puppet on the world stage. You know, George Soros has, what, $7 billion? As many bricks as they put out across the world for these staged protests. He would even went broke on them, being worth $7 billion. Again, this stuff's military black budget, and you have to look into who really runs the nation. The same people who've been warned about for centuries, the Jesuits run this nation. And that's why, you know, Washington, D.C. is where they set up camp, and eventually the capital was moved there, and then they moved Inauguration Day to the 201st day of the nation, et cetera, et cetera. It goes with Donald Trump sacrificing his ex-wife exactly 60 weeks into the first Jesuit nation year on the day he says he's going to run in the 60th election, and then burying her on July 20th, the 201st day of the year. It goes with Beau Biden being sacrificed at 46, 201 days before the Pope's birthday, the first Jesuit Pope, Pope Francis, the first one to live in Suite 201, whose name also equals 201, just like the Jesuit order. Again, you learn this 201 number is important too with a lot of the weather warfare. Just the phrase weather control alone equals 201. Again, the first act of weather warfare on the Jesuit order's birthday. June 10th. You know what's funny? Today is June 10th. Go back in history. Lyndon Johnson. Today's 201 days after the anniversary of JFK's death, November 22nd. It was this day in history, Lyndon Johnson was at Jesuit Holy Cross, and he talked about who controls the weather controls the world. It wasn't the first time he'd made that quote, but Lyndon Johnson also did say that at Holy Cross 201 days after JFK's death. And yeah, you know, it's kind of crazy how, you know, weather warfare was admitted to a long time ago. The U.S. admitted to weather warfare during Vietnam. What Lyndon Johnson was saying back in the 60s. And here we are in 2025 where they make tic-tac patterns out of our skies and just all kinds of crazy, unprecedented weather. Like I said, when Klaus Schwab, by the way, Klaus Schwab, the Jesuit who hosted the Event 201 scandemic simulation right before it all went down, again, October 18th, 2019. But, you know, in June of 2020, Klaus Schwab, the same one who put on the 201 simulation, he said, "You'll own nothing and be happy by 2030. My video right then, the day of or the day after was, well, think about how they could possibly achieve that. It seems pretty far-fetched, but the weather warfare, you know, the other crap they can instigate in the world, but I thought weather warfare would be a pinnacle way to, you know, make sure you own nothing and be happy. There's a lot of people who that's already happened to, but for all of us, just the cost of living has exponentially risen. Property insurance through the roof. For anyone who owns commercial properties like yours truly, insurance rates are just astronomical. Yeah, so again, everyone who refuses to talk about the Kabbalistic angle of this, you're going to forever not see what's going on. And again, it's people like Derek Bros, again, Brush Junkie. I saw that you collaborate with him when I was checking out your channel. I was just like, how does this guy get around? Like, why does everyone collaborate with him? I understand he has some good ideas, but he's also a mental midget, very close-minded, and somebody who's gone out of their way to slander my name and this work when my work actually exposes what's going on. Once upon a time, Derek Bros was running for Houston mayor against Sylvester Turner, and I explained to him, I said, dude, you have no chance of beating Sylvester Turner. He's one of their agents on the chessboard, and that's why he just died by the numbers. Again, Trump threw the guy from Houston out at the, you know, all in the WWE theater this year of the State of the Union, and then Sylvester Turner, the former mayor, dies the next day. Sylvester Turner and Gematria equals 70, dead at 70. And again, anyone can look up the Vice News article written about me from, what year was that? The year of the 113th World Series, when I explained why Harvey was going to flood Houston on August 27th, the week before it did, and why that flooding would be synced with the World Series, which would be Houston over LA. All that happened. Of course, Vice News has the hit piece on me. And, you know, Derek Bros, when I showed that kind of work to him, he just dismissed it and said it was just like dumb and laughable. It's like, and by the way, I mean, just educating out the same stuff. I was pointing out that August 27th, 17 had 52 date numerology. It was the 239th day of the year, which is the 52nd prime. Again, flood, earth, Enlil, hurricane, they all equal 52. We've talked about the same things a million times. We've called out the dates these storms are going to hit a million times. And, people like Derek Bros, I always think of them about why this work has not reached the amount of people it should. And again, I mean, there is a lot of programming in our society, but there's also a lot of these half-truthers on the internet that went from prison to becoming YouTubers like Derek Bros. A lot of them are flat earthers, which are also misinformation people. And I do wonder about it, but yeah, this Brush Junkie, if you guys haven't checked out her channel, I think it is a good channel. I think she is legit. I think she is sincere. And yeah, it's just too bad that she's hearing about the Derek Broses of the world, people that aren't really going to lead you anywhere to anything. And this work's been swept under the rug and almost no one's hearing about it when it actually answers all the questions and shows who's running the show. And if enough people knew that, then they could be stopped. So anyway, we'll leave it there for now. And until next time, Truth Seeker.